At Gethsemane, after Jesus has been arrested, all the disciples flee. Then in verse 51 we read, "A certain young man was following Jesus, wearing nothing but a linen cloth. They caught hold of him, but he left the linen cloth and ran off naked." That's it. That's all we know about him. He's a failed disciple who ran away from Jesus when the going got hard. Now, if we jump to Mark chapter 16, did you notice how Mark doesn't talk about angels being at the tomb of Jesus? In verse 5, it says, "As they entered the tomb, they saw a young man dressed in a white robe." We would find that the phrase young man appears only 2 times in Mark: the young man who runs away naked and the young man at the tomb. These are not necessarily the exact same person, but consider the possibility that Mark wants us to see a literary relationship between them. Note that the young man in Gethsemane was wearing a linen cloth. The only time the Greek word translated as linen cloth is used in the gospel accounts is to describe the clothes that Christ is buried with. In Julie Smith's commentary, she says, "The young man in Gethsemane was dressed in a linen cloth, using the same Greek word as is used to describe Jesus' burial shroud. And he runs away, sans clothing, when the authorities attempt to arrest him. The young man is presented as a close follower, at least before he flees. That is a picture of shame. The cloth suggests that he showed up with the intent of dying with Jesus, but under pressure, preferred the humiliation of running away naked to the pain of death. Jesus is crucified without clothing, just as the young man runs away without clothing, implying that Jesus is symbolically taking the young man's shame upon himself. When the young man reappears at the tomb, he's now wearing clothing associated with honor and glory, clothing described as being like Jesus' clothing at the Transfiguration. In other words, he has not only been restored from shame, but is now assuming an even more honorable position. In effect, Jesus has swapped roles with this young man, and thus made the young man's restoration and glorification possible. The subtle but clear implication is that Jesus' death and resurrection have made this change possible for the young man. So as we step back and think about the theme of discipleship failure, I love remembering that even when we stumble, Christ still wants us on his team. He doesn't say, "You messed up and now you're out." He wants us with him, even when we've made some serious mistakes. And that's a really hopeful message for all of us who fail, and as we work and live with other failing disciples.
To see more videos like this one, simply search Seeking Jesus.